And this is The Communicators coming to you from the Grant Houses in Harlem, USA, 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. I'm Brother Leroy, host of The Communicators. And this program does not reflect the views, attitudes, whims, deeds, or any other proclivities of the leadership or membership of the resident council, nor does it reflect anything of the management of this NYCHA development. However, it does reflect the research done by the participants in the program live and live in color in studio by phone interview. And, of course, there is you, ladies and gentlemen. In the very near future, you'll be able to join in on the chat room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in the meantime, we'll carry on the dialogue with our guest today, a repeat performance with Brother Walter Beach. Brother Walter Beach is a man of many backgrounds. The one that we are focused on is the time that he spent with the Cleveland Browns football team, specifically a teammate of Brother Jim Brown. Brother Walter Beach, thank you for joining us. God bless you and your family.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. I appreciate the opportunity to share whatever information I can with your audience.
Well, what we wanted to do as consumers of the game of football, basketball, etc., is get into a subject area that I don't hear about that often, and that is at halftime, going back to your time on the football team, at halftime, what is said? What is said if the team is losing? What is said if the team is ahead? What kind of dialogue do you tend to hear at halftime when we're looking at commercials? You're doing something else.
We just preparing to correct the flaws and trying to improve upon on the situation that has been previously experienced in the first half. And there's a lot of a lot of discussions on who should be doing what or who's not doing what, and everybody's fairly receptive to to criticism, objective criticism, and I'll be clear about that, objective criticism.
Okay, okay, continue.
No. Sometimes, man, it's kind of difficult to take people to some place that they haven't been. I'll share an experience with you. We were playing. First half had gone by, and they were looking at the films and commenting on it. So the coach asked me. He said, "Beach," he said, "can't you see that you're out of position? So you see what's going on there, and they just, guy just caught a pass." And so I said, "I don't know. I don't think I'm out of position." He said, "But look where you are." And I said to the coach, "Coach, wasn't this a three? The play that we called was a 3-key, Key. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Then in the 3-key, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But it's the other guy's not where he's supposed to be." But he don't want to criticize the other guy.
Okay.
what he caught the pass on, the touchdown pass on. He want to bring me into that discussion.
Okay.
But like I shared with you before, when I played with the Cleveland Browns, and as well as when I played with the Boston Patriots, I knew my defenses. And I didn't only know where I went on a 3-key. I knew where the other 10 guys went. So therefore, but those were the conditions that we suffered under, and maybe people don't think that's suffering, but to be logged into situations that you're not directly responsible for is it's interesting.
Yes.
I'll use that term. It's interesting.
Right. It happens in corporate America. Not that you don't know that, but it happens in corporate America.
Yeah.
The company suffers a loss, and they slide it over to you. And if you're not aware of the treachery, the kind of mindset that they can have, even after they've smiled and pat you on the back, maybe give you half a bonus, etc. If you're not aware, then you buy into the critique that you were the cause of something that someone else was. Now, go ahead.
No. I was, like I told you, I'm a linguistic. So I deal with language, and when you said the treachery is a term that you use in conditions of war. But for some reason, our people don't think we're at war. So we think that when something goes down wrong, well, Johnny just didn't like us.
That's right.
But we don't understand about the system. The system that rejects you. So therefore, you're always going to fall on the short end, and you have to make those adjustments. And I shared with you last week, and I shared with other individuals, and my dad's primary response was, you have to decide what your relationship to racism is going to be. So sometimes you have to kind of, bow or smile or scratch where you're not itching.
Right.
But you have to make that determination. But he was also clear that you had to draw a line. He said you got to draw a line. There's a line in where you can't cross, man. And if you have to suffer the consequences of whatever those consequences may be, and quite often it may be death.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not a topic that people like to talk about.
Right.
But I know one thing: if anyone is going to violate my wife, my mother, my children, my family, then death ain't no big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things you die for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I want to go to in the present, and this is giving an insight into history, and also giving an insight into what I've seen coming up, watching football games, and I'll just deal with the football games. There weren't any quarterbacks, black quarterbacks, when there may have been one guy in there. I can't remember his name was Briscoe or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you didn't see a black quarterback. You did not see a middle linebacker. You did not see a center. And today you see those positions filled with black men across the board. Give us the significance of the linebacker and the quarterback and the center.
Well, that's the center of the game. You say center, and you even if you're dealing with geographically, and that's where it all goes down at in the middle. Quarterback, center, middle linebacker. And they're the ones that call the plays. Middle linebacker, or what they call Mike when I was playing. Mike would call the plays. Strong left, so the middle linebacker, when I was playing, the closest we came to the middle linebacker was a gentleman from named Tom Gooseby and Sam Tidmore. They didn't make the team, and basically it was because it was considered a high intellectual or academic position.
Mm-hmm.
And contrary to popular belief, that goes on today, when I played, the cornerback was considered one of those roles too.
Mm-hmm.
We were just not smart enough to play the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So every night when the lights was out and they come around to check the room, I'd be still up studying. So when the coach stuck his head in, I just tell him, I said, "Well, coach, I'm just trying to learn these plays."
Right.
Because they had already expressed that you ain't smart enough to learn the plays. So to be consistent with that particular philosophy, I was always saying, I'm just trying to learn these plays.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we had tests on an exam, if they call it a 3-key or 4-web or kick or whatever they call, I'd put all 11 people in it, where everybody was going.
Mm-hmm.
So they had no doubt that I knew where I was supposed to be on any given play.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the situation I said earlier when he said, "Well, look, Walt, you out of position." And then I asked him, I said, "But coach," I said, "I thought that was a 3-key.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was. I said, "Then I'm not out of position." He said, "Oh yeah, you're right. That was a 3-key.
Wow.
You wasn't out of position." But he never went over that to the other cat.
Exactly.
He didn't go say, "Well, man, you were the one out of position."
Yeah.
He just acknowledged that I was correct in my analysis.
Right.
And that's I was not a slave, so I wasn't branded and beaten and things like that. So people will say, "Man, you want to complain about every little thing." Well, to some people, that's not a little thing. When you know obviously what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go through the middle passage and through all that rough stuff. And the kids today don't go through all that rough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was had a psychological, emotionally impact on my spirit. So that's why I said last week, and what I say now, that was to me and for me. I don't speak for nobody but myself.
Yes, sir.
And and even if I got an opinion, I'll share it. And if people agree with it, it's all right. And if they don't, it's all right. Because I'm a sovereign human being. I'm a free man, not just physically. I'm free in my state of being,
Mm-hmm.
So I've come to terms with that.
Excellent. The middle linebacker, is he?
Yeah.
Just go through that. That may be obvious to many people today, but I'm covering all bases. I assume before you answer that question, I don't like to use the word assume, but I look at that position as being the guy is picking up what the quarterback, what the offensive team is doing or about to do, and he's calling out plays. That's what I understand. But for that position requires a strong individual, somebody who might be akin to a motivator. How close am I to that?
No, you're correct. The middle linebacker, because when the offense comes out, the quarterback comes out, he gets up under the center. What he does immediately is see how the other team is stacked. And if he's already called a play, and he see that the defense is in a good position, then he's got to change that play.
Mm-hmm.
And as he changes that play, the middle linebacker has to say too, because it's a chess game.
Mm.
They didn't like it here because they can't come here. Now they want to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I will share a quick story with you. And this is between Jim Brown and Sam Huff. And Sam Huff is the middle linebacker on the New York Giants, right?
Right.
So when they come out, Sam says to Jim, he hollers across to Jim. He said, "Jim, I'll meet you in the 2-hole." And Jim said, "Yeah, well, that's where we'll connect at." So they knew the play.
Uh-huh.
They knew that Jim was coming into the 2-hole.
Yeah.
But Jim and Woods and them, Jim said, "Well, all right, that's where we connect. I'll see you in the 2-hole because that's where I'm coming."
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just macho stuff, man to man stuff, man.
Right. Right.
You kill my dog, I kill your cat.
Okay.
You're not asking any quarters, you're not giving any, But that's the game. Middle linebacker, quarterback. And the difference in it today, and people may not like this, and they may not care about this, but the difference in the game today, the players did that. They didn't have somebody on the sideline with a computer.
Right.
The players did that. The players did that. When we broke the huddle, Mike Lucci, if he was the middle linebacker, he'd call the plays. And then if the plays had to be audible, he'd check them off and make them audible. Mm-hmm. They didn't have no computers or no stuff in your helmets and this. That's why I'm not being funny, but that's why I don't watch the game, man.
Right.
I'm not interested in that.
Right.
Johnny Unitas got up under the huddle. He called a play, and the play wasn't working. He called another play. Right. And if we shift the block that play, he called another play. But like now, you see all these guys got stuff on their wrists. They got computers. They got sounds in their helmet.
Yeah.
So it's a different game.
Okay.
Different game, that's all.
Okay, the skills that you gain in the game of football, the teamwork, etc. How has that carried over to your work in areas outside of football? How did that carry over?
Oh yeah, well, true mastery transcends any particular art. It stems from the mastery of oneself, the ability to be disciplined, calm, and in complete control of oneself. So that so if you're gonna play, you got to be disciplined, and you got to know what you're doing, and you got to be clear on that. Clarity is very important, not only on the football field, but in life.
Yes, sir.
But like I said, it transcends any particular art. If you're competent and sharp and thinking and conscious on the football field, then you're gonna be the same way off the field.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not gonna change, you can't just plug that in. So that's the way I like I said.
Okay. All right.
Rarely do I watch the games, but when I do, I kind of shared with some guys that when we used to play, we'll be on the phone. I got a friend out in California and one in Alabama, and we'll talk. They say, "Man, let's turn on the game. Let's see this," and then we'll comment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a different game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different game, and the guys are, in my opinion, they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I met a guy that I'm not gonna call his name, but he's a middle linebacker, big brother. But I met him, and when I was introduced to him, I knew who he was because. But when I was introduced and I shook his hand, I said, "Damn, man, this cat got some big hands. It's a big dude."
Wow.
I said he reminded me of some of the tackles that was on the team when I played.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a middle linebacker.
Mm.
But these guys can run, they can catch, they're tremendous athletes.
Mm.
And to me, they come close to the athletes. I think professional basketball players and soccer players are the best athletes. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Them basketball players, man, them cats, they're rough in terms of their ability to do what they're supposed to do.
Okay, you said basketball players and soccer. In your opinion, what is it about those sports that leads you to say that?
Well, I just some of the athletic things that they do in terms of the leaping and jumping and physical. It's from a physical aspect. The same thing that soccer players do, man. Running down. You try to run down the soccer field and kick a ball and keep it where you're going. That requires a special talents.
Okay. All right.
So I'm just saying I'm not taking any of the sports away. Takes a special talent to hit a baseball at 100 miles an hour from 90 feet. That takes special talent to hit that. And there's some mathematical equation to suggest that you couldn't do it. If you throw a ball 100 miles an hour from 90 feet,
man,
the human body can respond in a certain millisecond. So kind of, what is it? Geometrically, it's almost impossible to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Because the ball can get there before you can react.
Yes, sir.
So sports provide a number of a number of situations that benefits a human being, other than just the fact of the nature of just the camaraderie and the friendships that you develop, and the levels of commitment to do what you were supposed to do. So I found it very beneficial in my life, and it helped me a long way just having that experience.
And in terms of youngsters coming up, parents and guardians, the benefit of being on a team, in a team sport, what can be gained from that for a young person coming up?
I don't think you could have a better experience. The first thing it does, I think, in my opinion, is to eradicate the ego. And by that I mean it's a team activity, so you have to require and have to rely on other people. And once you understand that, I don't know, did I share the story with you last week about Jim?
Which
about
one?
Jim Brown when we were at a dinner, and they asked me to speak, and they said, "This is Walter Beach, who played with Jim Brown."
Mm-hmm.
So in a humorous moment when I got up, I said, "Jim Brown played with me."
Yeah.
And everybody laughed.
Mm-hmm.
And then after everybody laughed, and I had my little speaking, and Jim got up and he said, he said, Doc's right. He said, I play with him. He said, because I have never tackled no one.
Mm. Wow.
See, so he recognized what his role was. He recognized that it was a team sport.
Right.
No matter he's the greatest athlete that ever touched the football, he still knew that it was more than just that.
Yeah.
Somebody had to tackle somebody on the other side. And that's what he said I did. He said, Doc does the tackling and knocking down pass. I don't do none of that. I just do what I do. And that's what I mean for young men to have that experience.
Beautiful.
I think it's a beneficial experience. It makes you understand, man, of no special rank. You just like everybody else out here, trying to make a tackle, trying to block somebody, and you do it the best you can. So that's what I got out of sports. That's what I got out of sports, is that you do the best you can. Sometimes you do your best and you lose.
Yes, sir.
And then sometimes you do your worst and you win. So you don't control all that, but it gives you an understanding of what life's about. And that was the positive thing that I got out of it.
I want to take that observation.
So I wanted myself.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
No, go ahead. I cut in.
No. I said that's what I got out of it.
Okay. I want to take what you just said and shift it to LeBron James. I want to take what you just said and shift that to LeBron James in terms of him and the chemistry around him.
It's hard for me to talk about LeBron because I'm so biased.
But that's what, hey, Brother Walter Beach, that's what this show is about. Anybody else, ESPN, Sports Central, they can deal with the other stuff, objectivity. We dealing with straight up, this is a black talk show. So go ahead and run
it. Yeah. Now I love his posture about everything. I especially the fact that he knows where everybody is on the field, on the court, and they talk about it sometimes. And you would think that he makes passes or he gets people the ball, and I just think he's just a marvelous athlete. But I think he's such a gentleman too, in the way he conducts himself, and the fact of coming out of the community, supporting the community, marrying his high school sweetheart, not running, not hiding, not trying to get away from, but trying to contribute to. That's what I think is the most important. Not trying to leave, but contributing to, and that's what it's all about. Because it's all about you, in my opinion, your biological identity. So if you got a biological identity, you was born someplace and you represent something. And if you don't represent that from which you came from, looking at your genetic pedigree, everybody does that, man, I don't know nobody in China trying to free some black folks. I don't know nobody in Japan trying to free some black folks.
Yes, sir.
I don't know nobody in India trying to free some black folks. So that diversity and that intersectionality, those are just words, man. They're just words. I was on a football team in college where I was the only black football player on that team. And when we went to Southern Illinois, we went into a restaurant and they said no colors are allowed. The coach put all the 50 of us on the bus and we left. Went to a hotel and they said no black person could sleep in this hotel. The coach took all of us and we slept in the bus. This was a white man doing that. We slept in the bus. He wasn't just talking about trying to treat human beings correctly. He did it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
He did it. So there are some who will do it, and there's some who will just talk about it. Talk about what we should be doing it. But if you're not doing it, it don't mean nothing, man. Coach Kelly did it. He said, man, I got a black ball player that plays for me. If y'all not going to treat him like you treat everybody else, we ain't going to be there.
Mm.
And if that means I have to lose my job, then that's what you have to do. So all that equivocation about the stuff we talk about, man, is just something I have a difficult time addressing.
I want to go back to the game itself. Your effort was to master your position and to master the particular work that you needed to do. You learned not only your position, but you knew the position and what the other guys on the defense were to do. Talk about intuition. How much did intuition play in your 6-7 years playing the game?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've never thought about how I responded intuitively on situations. The closest I ever got to responding to that question that you posed was that I intercepted a pass one time, and I ran it back 60, 70 yards against the Detroit Lions. And after the game, the newspapers, they had their, they were, all of them was around me asking me, and one of them asked a question, and this is as close as I can get to what you're talking about. He said, how did you feel when you intercepted that pass?
Okay.
And I said, I can't answer that, man. I said, cause there are no words for me to tell you about how I feel. There's nothing in the English language can tell you how I feel and the experience that manifested from that particular action. So intuitively, I didn't put a lot of thought into that as a player. Intuitively, most of it was conditioning and reflexes predicated upon what I would consider reaction more than responses to. It just was reacting. So intuitively, I didn't dwell in it that long.
Okay.
I saw the game in my mind and in my head as we practiced during the week, based on what they were doing. But after that, I was not intuitively involved in it like that.
Okay. All right. When you look at the game of sports in general today, and you're talking to some young people getting into the game, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, it doesn't matter, but getting into the field of sports, what are the traps that you would make them aware of? What are the traps that come first to mind that you would make them aware of that may not have existed at the time that you were playing?
Well, if it didn't exist, I can't comment on it.
Okay.
I don't know. Something didn't exist. What exists when I was there? It was trying to make myself the most productive and perform the best I could, given the nature of what the experience was. See, when I was playing football, I share something with you that when we were conscious. We talked about things like this. I'm talking about teammates, black teammates. We talked about them. When I was playing for the 6 years I played, I don't know anyone or never experienced black ball players sitting on the bench. If you were a member of the Cleveland Browns, you were an active participant. And what we used to always say about that, they would draft college ball players, white ball players, and they wouldn't play. They'd be on a 40-man roster, but they wouldn't be out there on the field. But any black ball player on that 40-man roster gonna be on the field. you ain't gonna sit on the bench and back somebody up.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
There's what 6 cornerbacks or defensive man. I'm starting, and 3 other white boys are starting. But then there's 2 white boys behind her sitting on the bench. But the 2 black boys, like Calvin Lang, who from Florida State, was good enough to be playing. They cut him. They wouldn't let him sit on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
See, they wouldn't allow him to back me up.
Mm.
They'll have a lesser person backing me or the other cornerback up, but it wasn't going to be no brother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all I'm talking about, man, is just facts. I don't care about the others. I ain't here to do that. I just know what the experience was.
Mm-hmm.
Facts represent the truth.
Yes, sir.
See, so those were facts.
Right. So the traps that I'm alluding to are the kind of traps that evidently capture my observation. This is my experience in terms of how I experience something when I see or read about it, and that is the area of drugs, the area of being seduced by a female who's been seducing about 18, 19, 20 other dudes before they get to you, and you fall into that trap. Maybe that's just common sense. Hey, man, stay away from that. But those
you're talking about female traps, right?
Female traps, drug traps, money traps, con game traps, etc.
Well, that comes from that comes from a different source.
Mm-hmm.
There are traps in the environment, but those traps you're only susceptible to those traps if you haven't been conditioned or raised correctly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fall for no traps about. I signed with the New York Giants, and the first time I'd seen an attaché case full of money was in Detroit at the Cadillac Books. I was drafted, and me and my father went down to sign the contract. And when we got down there to sign the contract, in the discussion, they opened up an attaché case with a whole lot of money. And me and my father had a discussion about the fact that I was going to sign and what I was going to sign for.
Right.
In terms of dollars.
Yes, sir.
When they opened up that attaché case with all them $100 bills, I looked at my father looked at me, and we said, yeah. I don't know if it was 2 in there or 200. I know it was more money that I'd ever seen. It was more money that he had ever seen.
Oh, man.
So wasn't no doubt. I mean, I couldn't have said no. My father would have knocked me out if I hadn't signed. No, some point I'm trying to be. At that moment, we succumbed to that situation.
Okay.
But from that point on, when I was involved in contract negotiations, cause we didn't make the kind of money these guys that we didn't need. I don't know of anybody that had an agent.
Right.
When it's contract time, I just talked to the owner about my contract.
Exactly.
And I had a decent season, and I'd ask for more money. Right. And coach said, "Well, we can't give you no more money." And I said, "Well, why can't you give me no more money?" He said, "Well, you haven't been here but a year, and we got other players that's been here longer, so we have to give them some money." So it didn't make sense to me. So I said to the owner, I said, "Do you mean somebody that's been here for 2 years have to do what?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "On Sunday, does the guy been here 2 years have to do less than me?" I said, on Sunday, I got to do what the guy who's been here 20 years doing. So you can't use that as a reason why I can't get no money because somebody's been here longer than me and I'm doing my job. You want me to do my job Sunday, don't you? So I should look over there and say, well, I ain't going to do my job. That guy been here 5 years, a bit longer than me. Let him do his 5 years. You want me to do my job on Sunday the best I can. So those are the kind of issues you had, you know, that most of the guys during my era had, trying to negotiate our own contracts. We didn't. I mean, if I could have made $1 million standing on the corner, oh man, that's what these guys do now, man. Make millions of dollars standing on the corner, man.
Yeah.
Can't cover nobody. Can't tackle.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just being funny about that because, like I said, I think they're tremendous athletes. but man, you know, if you don't give me $1 million to color something, we had a saying, me and the coach, and he would say, man, he said, you got to cover him. You got to stay close to him. You got to cover him. And I said, yeah. And the coach said, if you go to the bathroom, you got to go to the bathroom with him. Wherever he went, I went. And that was the task, you know. So it's hard for me to relate to some of the stuff going on today because it's hard for me to relate to some of the things that takes place in our communities and society today.
Right.
I'm 87 years old in 2 weeks. I got a son and daughters, and if you talk to my son or my daughters, and they'll say, Daddy, when is the last time you talked to Mr. Bibbs? You hear what I'm saying?
I'm listening. Yeah.
When is the last time you talked to Mr. Bibbs? It's Mr.
Right.
My children don't talk to no adult, don't refer to no adults without saying Mr. or Ms.
Right.
I had a friend call me, and this is what she told me. She said she got an 18-year-old son, and her 18-year-old son is dating a girl who's 18. And on his birthday, she said the girl called her. This is what this girl is telling me, the friend, who's an adult. Said the girl called her and said, hey, sis, how you doing? I just called to tell you, just to wish your son a happy birthday. An 18-year-old girl dating an 18-year-old male, talking to the mother of the male, talking about hi, sis.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. So things have changed. So I can't be brought into that stuff because I've lived beyond all that nonsense. My son, my daughters better not tell me about Mr. Willie, about Mr. Jones, about not saying Mr. They respect adults.
In terms of
these young people, man,
hey, it's a gap that we as adults, that we in the family have to, like you've passed on to your son and daughter and probably your grandchildren. That's a task that we have to do. Go ahead. No, you're about to say something, of course.
Well, you know, I said this last time. I'm not a hero.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not suicidal. But I would be in a difficult strait. And my wife said this to me this morning. My wife said that a friend of hers, a gentleman called a friend of hers a bitch. And my wife said this. She said, if my husband had been there, he would have kicked his ass.
Yes, sir.
Now, y'all may not like that. Ain't no man gonna call no woman in my presence no bitch. I don't care how many muscles he got. I don't care how many knives he got. I don't care how many guns he got. Now, if he got more muscles, he might beat me up. He got more knives, he might cut me. He got more bullet, he might shoot me. But I would not be part of that with not interceding. don't exist today, man. You out there, you know how these guys talk about the women.
Yes, sir.
And I'm talking about women who look like their mothers.
That's right.
And their grandmothers.
That's right.
Man, I'm gonna be in the presence, man. Like I said, I'm 87 years old, man. And when I was in junior high school, and I know you know this because you come out the community, people played the dozens.
Yes, sir. Right.
I never played the dozens in my life. With nobody gonna say nothing about my mother that I wouldn't respond to. And when we were in high school, I hit a brother with a bat. He said something about my mother, and I hit him with a bat. And everybody that knew, they grew up around me, they said, man, you ought to know, Beach don't play no dozens. I don't talk about nobody's mother, and ain't nobody don't talk about my mother. But that's just me, man, and I ain't trying to brag or be proud. I'm just saying, look, the one thing that I'll say, and I think that a lot of people can say, but this is the one thing that I will say. What I know myself to be. That's what I'm saying. That's what I know myself to be that.
Yes, sir. In terms of Jim Brown, what situations might he have included you on where he's been dealing with bringing peace between street associations, otherwise known as gangs, and that? Have you ever had that experience where he called you in, and others? You know.
Oh yeah, I'm the Northeast. I'm the Northeast director of the Mir I Can program, Jim Brown's program.
Yes, sir.
Within the next 2 weeks, we'll be introducing that program in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We'll be training 20 students in the in a middle school. I've been a part of that program. We've had several programs all over the country, but all the ones in New York, New Jersey, Detroit, I've been involved in them with Jim. The Jim's programs, Jim's curriculum, and I participate with them. And hopefully we'll be starting one in 2 weeks.
In Allentown. And what
in Allentown, yeah.
What branches or chapters do you have in the state of New York?
Well, we don't have any chapters in the state of New York. What happens in the state, New York, the same as the state, is if a school system or superintendent are interested in the Mir I Can program, then they would contact the Mir I Can. And like I said, we've had the Kellogg's Foundation funded the Mir I Can for 10 years in New York. Okay. And I was the executive North executive director of that.
Excellent.
We don't have any particular Mir I Can programs in New York today.
Okay. All right. Good. And talk about your interaction with the youngsters, because when you are in that kind of capacity, you're having firsthand contact with some of the greats and some of the casualties, and some that could be on the edge, of.
Oh yeah, we deal with the young people, and the young people are, dealing with young people is an inspiration, especially if you love your people like I do.
Yes, sir.
Try to keep them on the straight and narrow, but there are issues that they have, and you try to confront those issues and address them. But with the Mir I Can program, there's a 16 chapter curriculum. When we take them through that curriculum is transformative. It transformed the young people, and we've taken thousands through that curriculum. In fact, two of my facilitators are come out of the penitentiary and participate in the program and are positive and productive members of the community. So that program and that curriculum is powerful in terms of having an impact on young people and changing their lives. Now, you know, the Crips and the Bloods went through that program in Los Angeles, and out of that came a peace treaty. You know.
How did that coincide before Nipsey Hussle was assassinated? Or
no, this is back in this is about 15, 20 years ago.
Okay, all right, okay. And in terms of victories in that capacity of the program, what victories comes to your mind? I know you just mentioned the two brothers facilitators who came out of prison. What victories of youngsters having a turnaround, an epiphany, or development of skills, etc., after having contact?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of those. When I was doing it, I was in Brooklyn, and I went to Macy's down there on Fulton Street.
Right.
In Brooklyn,
right.
And I heard somebody say, "Hey, Mr. Beach," and I looked, and it was a young girl. She must have been about 17, 18. She said, "You remember me?" She said, "I was in your program, the Mayor I Can program."
Wow.
And she was working in Macy's. You know,
beautiful.
I've had hundreds of those experiences when I was really moving in Brooklyn. When I lived there, I no longer live there. Yeah. So it's a very positive program. Very, very beneficial for. I think more people should be exposed to it. And it benefits the community.
Brother Walter, you have mentioned quite a few times your love of your people. What is it that black people have that they don't know they have? Your observation.
What do they have that they don't know they have?
That is correct.
Well, it all starts with identity, man. Identity. Once you have an identity, and that's part of the problem, man. There's the ubiquitous nature of identity. You're black, you are Muslim, you're Christian, you're Moorish American. You all these different identities are melting or labeled or brands that they give our people, as well as the negative brands. So what has happened, in my opinion, is that the American European colonial hegemony, influence, is what captures us. We operate out of that orbit. So we look at people. We look at people and put value on them based on a Western cultural thought, on the way they look at people. So you can't look at people. You can't look at people predicated upon someone else's definition of how you view the world. And if you're part of an experience, and that experience was a slave experience, and those individuals who put you in slavery identify what you view as wholesome and well-being, if they define that for you and you accept that, you're in trouble. We accept the way that we look at, and I just briefly, because we're talking about sports. People will talk to me and say, "Man, it is really great. I really like you because you was a professional football player." But being a professional football player has no special rank for me. But it does for those who come out of a society that value that. A football player can make more money than a school teacher. Now, who's more beneficial to the school teacher?
Yes, sir.
See, so if we fall into those are the kind of traps that you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Man, I don't care, man. I don't care what you got to come and do something. That's what I said. That's why I told you about LeBron. Not only is he in the community, he didn't lead the community, and he helps the community. He ain't running around there holding up his muscles, man. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen, and you got me now off into something else. Have you ever seen a football player play football and the score is 42-0 and you got nothing, and when you make a tackle, you jump up and show your muscles?
Right.
Can you see the absurdity of all that?
Yes, sir.
That's another reason I don't watch it. Here you are on a team, and your team is losing by 20 points, and you intercept the pass, and then when you get in the end zone, you start dancing.
Yeah.
And you down by 30 points.
Yes, sir.
What kind of nonsense is that?
Man.
So, but that comes out of a culture, man. That's why I say, man, one thing's got to be, there's got to be clarity and consciousness. You got to be clear and conscious of what you're looking at. So they be showing you stuff, and you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you've seen. You know, you're in a society now, man, where some people, and I'm saying this, I'm apolitical, but I heard a woman, a European woman, tell to people that that's an alternative fact.
An alternative fact.
Now, what is an alternative fact? That's what Trump and them are talking about. Exactly. Ambiguous fact.
That's right.
See, they got people believing in nonsense, man.
That's right.
And in the last poets deal with it real cool. It's madness.
That's right. Beautiful.
The last poet called it madness. You're gonna let someone linguistically talk about an alternative fact.
Man.
An ambiguous fact.
Man.
See, that. So when you get caught up in that kind of nonsense, you'll go for anything. So that's what our people, they go for anything. They go for things that don't make sense, man. Like I said, I'm not trying to. I'm just talking about obvious stuff. I don't know. In my limited knowledge, I only know what people told me about some experiences that I had. They told me how I got here.
Yes, sir.
They told me that my father and my mother had an experience that produced me.
Yes, sir.
So that means that I come out. Through the fallopian tubes of my mother.
Yes, sir.
But then when I get out here, somebody tell me that some cat got here through an immaculate conception, so he didn't have to come through no fallopian tubes.
Yes, sir.
he just, and then not only did he get here first, for the woman to get here, had to take one of his ribs for her to get here. I'm just talking about, man, some stuff is madness. And if you can't think, I ain't talking about how you feel and what you believe, but I'm just talking about now thinking. Can you make an analysis that is objectively accurate? If it's objectively accurate. What I'm talking about is objectively accurate. It ain't no opinion. It ain't no belief. It ain't no feeling. The only way you get here on this planet is to come through the fallopian tube. Now, you can have stories out there about how other people got here, but those are stories. And like I told you before, my father said, everybody's got a story. So tell them your story. So I tell them my story. Because everybody got a story. But if my story don't make sense, what are you going to say? It doesn't make sense. Well, how come people don't say when other stories don't make sense? The story don't make sense, man. It don't hold together. My son, who is a little brighter than I am, got something that he says, and I always find it interesting. He says, what is intuitively obvious to some never reached the realm of possibilities for others.
Damn. What's his
and
name?
He says,
what's his name? Little Doc?
No. No, no, that's my son Darren. No, he's a bright cat, man. But he teaches me a lot. That's why I love him. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff going on, man. He be sharing. I'll say something. He said, "Well, Daddy, did you consider this?" I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, but we share information,
Yeah. Beautiful, man.
and that's part of what we're committed to do. So when we deal with that, we should do it, and with him as well as with me. You just can't bring me something that don't make no sense.
Mm. You know,
You just can't.
Dick Gregory. I was talking to the late Dick Gregory. I said, "It doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense." He said, "Don't try to make it make sense." He
Right.
said, "It don't make sense. Don't make." I said, "Wow," and that freed me up. Because when
Of
it
course
doesn't
it
make
did.
sense, they telling a lie. So
Right.
don't try to make a lie make sense.
Don't try to read. There's a word that they got in the English language. They call that too. It's connected with say you interpretation.
Yeah,
There's a word that you should probably look up. There's a word called interpolation.
interpolation. Okay.
Yeah, interpolation, not interpretation. Interpolation. That means you want to insert or introduce a new word to change
Ah,
or make false the other word.
okay. All right.
See, that's called interpolation, not interpretation.
Okay. Now,
Yeah, so that's just one of the things that, like I said,
yeah.
I'll go off. I have a lot of fun, a lot of talking about stuff. Don't bother me because, like I said,
Wow.
I've already made peace. I've already made my peace.
My co-engineer here in the studio, he's repeating what you've been saying. Hey man, you're almost 87. You ain't got no reason to tell no BS on nobody. Um, Brother Walter, in terms of reading materials, okay, in terms of reading materials, and Black History Month coming up, Harriet Tubman, the movie, having made it mark, what would be three books that you would recommend to the audience, young people and or adults, and what would be two or three movies that you would recommend for people to build their
Oh
consciousness
man,
on?
uh, let's deal with the book, and it depends on how where you want to go and how deep you want to get. You heard the book Urugu
Yes,
by
that's
Doctor by
the sister down in
Urugu.
Atlanta, um,
Yeah, Ami
McKimby
Ani
Marimba. Yeah, yeah,
Miranda
okay,
Ani.
yes, sir.
Uh, you could read any of the works or go on YouTube and get Amos Wilson stuff.
Right, right.
Yeah, Amos Wilson. He lays it out. Of course, Dr. John Henry Clark, all of the traditional
Yes,
teachers, Dr. Ben,
yes, sir.
uh, Bobby Wright.
Right.
Oh, like I said, I have a list of Neely Fuller.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neely Fuller's statement.
He said if you don't, go ahead.
Yeah, Neely Fuller says if you do not understand racism and white supremacy and how it works,
Hmm.
everything else you understand will only confuse you.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
why I like his statement. He
Yeah.
said, if you don't understand it and how it works, he said, everything else you understand will only confuse you.
Yes, sir.
And it's power in that aspect of what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find him. No, I find it very important to deal with his stuff.
Yes, sir.
Now I can't get off. If I get off into the movies, man, one of the favorite movies is two. What I'm feeling, one of my best movies is The Godfather,
Okay.
the trilogy.
Yes, sir.
Cause they tell you what's going on in America.
Yes, sir. Very good.
They run it. Yeah. So another movie, man, tell you how they run it is Tombstone. Now that's a cowboy movie.
Right.
But in Tombstone, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, they show you how they run it.
Right.
But people think these movies
Yeah.
are something.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's 4 or 5 of them, man. That's Tombstone, The Godfather, The Usual Suspects.
Mm.
The Usual Suspects. They show Prestige.
Mm. Prestige
And
is
The
the
Sting.
illusion. Prestige is the illusion thing, right?
Yeah, Prestige. They show they're cloning stuff. They got. I mean, it's a lot of different stuff that you might want to look at.
Yeah.
But you asked me mine.
Yes,
but
sir.
like I said, I started with The Godfather.
Excellent. Okay.
I started with The Godfather, where they kill a rock.
Mm.
They kill a rock.
Mm.
When Michael tells his wife how naive she is,
Mm.
you know, how naive you know. Well, your father ain't like everybody else. He talking about killing people.
Mm.
It doesn't come home to roost, man. It's come home to roost. You know, and Malcolm stuff. You know, I read one of the other books that I like is The Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Almost got me fired when I was reading it. You know.
You
got to do a lot of reading and studying, man.
brother Walter. You left it on the desk.
What I left on the desk?
No,
I'm sorry.
Message to the Black Man in America. You was reading it and you left it on your desk at work or something.
No, I was playing with the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, we were on an airplane trip. We were going to play the Los Angeles Rams. And on the plane, the owner came by and I was reading a book, Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Mm.
And he asked me, he said, "What are you reading?" And I showed him the book. And he said, "I don't want you to read that book." And I said, "Okay." And he left. And when he come back, he said, "You read that book?" And I told you that I didn't want you to read the book. I said, "You did tell me that." I said, "But I thought you were joking."
Mm.
He said, "No, I wasn't." He said, "I wasn't joking." I said, "You got to be joking. A man can't tell another man what to read."
Wow.
Now, you own this football team. You don't own me, man. When we get to Los Angeles, give me a ticket, I'll go on back home. But don't ever think you're going to tell me what to read.
Mm. Mm.
And I still played 5 more years with him.
Go ahead, Black Man.
No,
ahead.
well, I had some help. You know, no, what I mean by that, you know, we had some players. We had some black ball players on the team that stood strong. Not just Jim, but some other ones too. You know.
Was one of the brothers named Jim? Was one of the other brothers Wooten? Wooten, was he on the team?
Yeah, John Wooten, John Brown, Clifton McNeil, Walter Roberts, Charlie Scales.
Yeah. Y'all have y'all had interaction with Bill Russell and some of the Boston players, right? In terms of
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, my brother, I want to thank you for your sharing, brother. You know, and when we do a third interview, I'm going to ask you, in terms of preparing for that, what is it about Walter Beach's experience that black people don't know but should know? All right.
So, like I said, man, I'm serious, but I don't consider myself no special rank. I just know that I live my life and I try to live it the best I can.
Yes, sir.
And it's beneficial to me, and it's acceptable to me. So I'm not proselytizing or trying to bring people around to agree or disagree with what I say. It's just it's just who I am, right? And because there's probably hundreds of thousands of people who disagree with everything I say.
Hey, and that's
all right.
That's for us. That's fine. The fact of the matter is, on this show, The Communicators, we look for black men and women who have set an example, whether they were trying to do that or not. But just in the very fact that they're living, have, the Almighty has granted them an anointing that they weren't necessarily looking for. So, my brother, I want to thank you very much. May God continue to bless you and your family.
Yeah, well, I feel my cup runneth over, man.
Yes, sir.
And I always I look at, and one of the things, Mahalia Jackson, she used to sing. She said, "I sing the song. I live about my life. I sing the song. I live." And that's all I'm saying. I just live it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for being you.
All right.
All right. Peace,
well,
brother.
Thank you for the opportunity to share that. I hope somebody benefits from it.
Yes, sir. God bless you, man. And ladies and gentlemen, this is The Communicators, and we'll be right back.